The only guy who gets the test, they can't. They were like, oh, we'll get it. I'm right. But the thing is, we need almost so I know for sure that we just started like are you kidding?
How are you? Sorry.
Oh, do we have more time? They just leave them right now because I'm still making noise again. Sorry. So nice to meet you.
Nick, I need you in the front. Sorry.
Oh, that's what it was. We're gonna give you the. I genuinely like.
Okay, you're still there.
Where's your bear leg?
I know. Tell me. Oh, I don't know. You have a pin. You know, she was like.
What? I look like I want to die. I think you should talk. Yes, you're doing like that.
Is that how it is?
Different than street. That's fine. I don't really have to. They want the same one. Just a shot. I should have done that. Get down, by the way.
No, not you.
Yeah, and then I gotta follow up. Kathy, I think, responded.
Because I haven't heard anything back from them, so I was like, let me ask you.
I will follow. I'm gonna look today because Kathy. Got another one. Where they can sit? Oh, what? Yes. Yeah. Right. Right. RJ is here to
Oh,
support
no,
RJ.
don't say it's like not for big ones.
Just don't want you walking over.
That's a nice tie.
Don't worry. Once I finish talking.
We'll do it after.
How are you?
RJ.
Good. Yeah,
Yeah, get her name.
how's everyone doing? That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff.
Thank you. Oh. Sorry.
My rule is I stay in school for 2 hours.
I try to get back and forth.
RJ. Yes, we are.
Good.
No, there's so many.
Everyone doing?
How are you?
Exactly.
Michael.
Yeah.
Hey, Jan.
See some sun. Shine on everybody.
Joanna.
Here it comes.
I put it, yeah. I was
What's the ETA? Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Why are we here today?
Left
Why does it matter? It matters, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Our
Thank
needs
you.
matter.
Absolutely, and that's why we're all here today. So good afternoon, I'm Councilmember Rita Joseph of the 40th District, but more importantly, I serve as the chair of the Education Committee. As a forever educator and a steadfast advocate for education, I stand before you today with a pressing concern and demands for immediate attention, not tomorrow, today. The enforcement of state class size law in our New York City public schools. And I know RJ, my partner on the state, fought for this way before I was here. So thank you, RJ, for standing with me always. My colleagues, Christopher Marte and my other colleagues that will be joining, UFT parents, all of you, thank you for being here today because you know it matters. It is no secret that a smaller class leads to better academic outcomes for our students. Study after study has shown that when teachers can provide individualized attention to each child, academic performance improves. First-hand experience, 2 decades in New York City public schools, and I know what it means to have a small class. Students' engagement increase and disciplinary issues also go down. So it's a whole thing. It's not just one thing. It's a simple equation. Smaller classes equal better opportunities for our children to succeed. Am I right?
Yes.
Yet, despite the clear benefits, far too many of our classrooms exceed the maximum class size limits mandated by New York State education law. Not by the chair, by New York State education law. This is not just a matter of policy, it is also a matter of equity and justice for our students. Every child, regardless of their background, zip code, deserve access to quality education.
Yes.
And enforcing class size regulation is a crucial step in ensuring that promise. Ahead of today's hearing, I'm calling on the New York City Mayoral Administration and New York City Public Schools to take decisive action. We must prioritize education by adhering to the state class size law without exception. This means reducing class sizes, allocating necessary resources to hire more teachers, creating access to additional classrooms, and establishing transparent mechanism for monitoring our accountabilities. Parents, what do we want? Class size. That's right. Our children's future are at stake. We cannot afford to delay. Let's stand together in solidarity for the well-being and success of every student in New York City. Together, let's ensure our classroom provide nurturing and supporting environments that our children need to thrive. What do we want?
Small class size.
What do we want?
Small class size.
When do we want it?
Now.
Thank you. Thank you. For the next person coming up, I'm going to call Senator Robert Jackson.
Well, please let me say thank you for inviting me. This struggle, this fight has been there for a long time. Yes. But the struggle continues every day. And especially when those that feel that the class sizes are not too small. They're big. Here's one sign here from a first grader in school, class of 30 children. And the school is saying next year is going to be what? More. More. That's totally unacceptable. And to those individuals that think class size doesn't matter, we're here to stand in the hearing today to say, yes, it does. Class size matters. And I say this to you, along with my colleagues here and all of the people behind us, we're going to fight to make sure that class size matters in New York City. With that, I say, Madam Chair, thank you for inviting me. I will be there with you in the struggle, fighting all the way.
Let's do it. What do we want? Small class. Thank you. Next, I'd like to call Public Advocate Jumani Williams.
Peace and blessings. Love and light, everybody. How are you today? You could be better with some smaller class sizes. So, I know it's hard to believe, but I was a bit of a troublemaker in school. I know it's hard to believe. And I always shout out my 5th grade teacher, Miss Jeannie Ned, because without her, quite frankly, my life took a different turn. She had a love to assist, particularly young black knuckleheaded boys in particular. But I always say I'm worried now that if I was to go to school now, that I may not have been able to get the type of attention that was needed at that moment in time for various reasons. One of which, I think Ms. Ned might be so focused on teaching to the test, she might not have the time to give attention to some young people that needed it. But two, I remember my class size not being terribly big. And I wonder if she had 40 and 50 students in a class, would she be able to pay attention to someone she saw needed a little bit extra attention? Without it, their life could have gone another way. With it, they can become a citywide elected official. And so it's important that we understand how important and critical class size is to be able to do the things that teachers have to do. Teachers are not babysitters. We have to be clear that there's so much more. They are integral to young people's lives. Miss Ned was integral to my life. And if she had a balloon-sized class, I might have got lost in that class, and things could have gone so much worse. And what we're saying on top of that is, it's actually the law.
That's right.
It's the law that you should be following right now. And I know there are difficulties in getting there. But what shouldn't be difficult is to present a plan. What we are saying is present a plan that we can all work off of. it is more difficult to get to a destination that you're not even trying to get to. And so what we're saying is with this plan, we can all aim to get to the destination we want to get to and not lose funding because you're not presenting a plan.
Right.
So New York City Public Schools, Department of Education, do the baseline here. Present a plan to get to smaller class sizes. Smaller class sizes is not something that's just something we wish for. It is something that is integral. And across this nation, everyone understands why smaller class sizes are important. New York should lead the way and not lag behind once again. Thank you so much.
Class size matters.
Class size matters. Class size matters. Class size matters.
Thank you so much. Matters. I love it. Thank you so much, public advocate. I'd also like to recognize Councilmember Nurse was here. But next, I'm going to call my sister in this fight, Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa, the chair of Labor. So this
Thank you so much. So first of all, let me say that I represent Washington Heights in northern Manhattan. I have to give a shout out to our senator who's here, who has been fighting this fight along with Johanna Garcia and his team for decades. We remember when Robert walked to Albany, right?
Yes.
Well, that is the community that I come from, a community that understands that if we are to create a city that we all aspire to create, then our children's education is non-negotiable.
That's right.
Well, our good senator and our colleagues in Albany did their job. They delivered the dollars needed in order for us to understand that our children's education is a priority, and they passed the law of the land that dictates class size in New York City.
Yes.
So now I'm gonna ask you all a question, and it's a rhetorical question, don't answer me, because I don't think none of us know the answer. Why is this administration so focused on not following the laws of the land? Why is this administration so focused in completely cutting sectors that are so critical, like early childhood education in these austerity budgets? These are questions that we've been asking ourselves when we understand that in order to have progress in our communities, our schools need smaller class sizes, we need to fund and prioritize early education, and as a mother of a 4th grader in the public school system, I have to say that our educators have been the unsung heroes, not only of the pandemic, but in communities where generations of educators and children have been left behind. I've seen teachers take money out of their pockets to pay for the things that government failed to provide. And so now, as the labor chair, I'm saying to all of us here, this is a coalition that is fighting, yes, for our children's right to sound basic education, but also for our teachers who are city workers, who deserve work environments that help them to thrive. We already know they love their jobs, because if they didn't, there would be no possible way they could still be here in New York City teaching today. So let's make it easier for them to hone in that craft that they love by being able to have the environment to teach in a way that is productive, not only to them as people who deserve work environments that are productive, but also to our children. This makes complete sense, and I stand with this beautiful coalition here today to call on the administration, as our public advocate said, to just present a plan that makes sense for this road ahead. So you have my support, and I look forward to bringing this fight to the finish line.
Yes, good afternoon. Is Tiffany here from Senator Liu's office?
No, Tiffany is not Senator.
Those parents. Okay. But Senator Liu is not here. I'd like to recognize my Councilmember Dinowitz, Councilmember Aviles, and Mike Sill. You're up next.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Mike Sill. I serve as the Assistant Secretary of the United Federation of Teachers. The Department of Education has an incredible opportunity. An opportunity to change the educational lives of the students who are in their charge. And it couldn't come at a better time. Despite what the mayor says, revenues are up.
That's right.
The reserves are overflowing.
That's right.
And as you heard others say, Albany has made an unprecedented investment in the young people of this city.
Yes.
The city needs to do the same. Sadly, the way that they're engaging is by inflating cost estimates, by inventing excuses, and by gaslighting the public. It's the policy equivalent of saying the dog ate my homework. The city and the DOE refuse to take the additional money that they have on hand and send it to the schools. What are they actually doing with the money? Your guess is as good as mine. So today we ask the City Council's help to force the DOE's hand. Here's what the students, families, and educators of New York City need right now. We need the DOE to identify the high-need schools that currently have the space to offer students smaller class sizes as the law requires and prioritize those schools for implementation. We need to provide the additional funding for those schools from the city's surplus revenue and the reserves and the additional foundation aid that the city's now receiving so that they can reduce class sizes by September, not by 2028. And they need to act on the recommendations of the class size working group that the DOE itself convened. Yes. Right? And by doing that, they need to especially focus on the cap on capital planning. That has to include the restoring and increasing of funding for new seats in the current capital plan and in the release of information regarding where those seats will be sited. I'll finish by saying this. This law does nothing more than lower New York City's class sizes to the same class size limits that already exist in the rest of New York State. I refuse to believe that in the greatest city of New York, we can't do what Long Island's already doing. That's right. What upstate New York is already doing. That's right. If it's good enough for Scarsdale, it's good enough for Sunnyside. Yes. And if it's good enough for the Catskills, it's good enough for the Rockaways. Yes. And if it's good enough for Huntington, it's good enough for Hunts Point. Yes. Do it now! Right. Do it now!
All right, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Class size matters!
Class size matters! Class size matters! Class size matters! Class size matters! Class size matters!
Thank you. I'd also like to shout out Scott Cyber from My Partner in Crime in the state level. Senator John Liu couldn't be here with us today. Next, we want to hear from people that are impacted by class size. So I'm going to call up parent Tiffany Caceres. Hope I didn't butcher your name.
No, it's okay. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Tiffany Caceres. I'm a mom of 3 in the New York City public schools. I have 2 boys in high school and a daughter in elementary school, all in Queens. My sons, their high school classes are too large, 35 kids in a class. Kids get lost. The teachers are great, they're doing all they can, but there is not enough time in a day to connect with every one of them. 35 kids multiplied by however many classes that high school teacher is teaching. And when kids get lost, parents, we kind of blame ourselves. We question ourselves. We ask, what have we done wrong or what have we not done right? When in reality, there are just too many students. My daughter is 8. She had 32 students in her class. It was a combined class of students with IEPs and general ed. Again, there were just too many. This year, she is in a 12-to-1. It is for children with IEPs, yes, but it is built on the idea that smaller is better. Smaller classes mean teachers have more time with each student. That's more time for teachers to connect, to have time to say, hey, how are you? You seem down, what's going on? My sons are 18 years old. We have been fighting for smaller classes for as long as they've been alive. Finally, we have a class size law. The city and the DOE need to do their job and make this law reality. My kids and your kids deserve it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'd like to now call my colleague, Councilmember Shahana Hanif.
Yay! Thank you. Let's chant, do it now!
Do it now! Do it now! Do it now!
Class size matters!
Class size matters! Class size matters! Class size matters!
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Shahana Hanif, and I represent school districts in Brooklyn 13, 15, and some of 20.
Yes.
I'm a proud product of New York City Public Schools. I went to PS 230 in Kensington, and every time I get to go back, I am proud. However, the class sizes are still too big.
Yes.
And what I'm worried about is that while we push the mayor and the DOE to follow and comply with this law. It cannot come with the disinvestments that we are seeing in our schools. We cannot simply have smaller class sizes with the other disinvestments. So that's what worries me and the principals and the educators I speak to. And I know that the UFT, that Chair Joseph, and all the leaders gathered here today will always fight to bring back the full investments in the arts that are required for our students alongside the smaller class sizes. I appreciate this coalition for this hearing this afternoon. It is a long time coming, and particularly the class size working group's recommendations that need to be complied with. The DOE has a pathway. It simply must be followed. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so much. I'm now going to call Annette Manigault. Annette? No? Okay.
Amy Side.
Amy Side. Calling on Amy Side.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Side, and I want to say I wrote a whole bunch of notes, but I know as a parent, it's from experience, it's from my heart. I'm a mom of 5 living in the Bronx, coming from a Queens native, K-12 public student alumni, and my 5 children are in elementary, middle school, and high school in 3 different districts in the Bronx and Manhattan. I've had the experience of large classrooms in District 10 because I'm also a member of Community Education Council District 10, which I resided for the last 18 years. I've seen classrooms over 28 to 30 to 34, even during a pandemic. My son is 18 in a District 75 program. He started in early childhood with a classroom of 6, 2 teachers and paraprofessionals in a self-contained class. He had the opportunity to be in a District 75 inclusion program in middle school at the Petrie Maribel campus in Washington Heights. When I got into that classroom with his general peers, I still saw 33 students in the classroom. I was shocked that we were still rising with students in the classroom, but I said, I'm not going to take him backwards. I'm going to continue to make him successful. My other 4 children started early childhood with 2 teachers and 18 students in the classroom. I was so happy because each student was given the one-to-one attention and the social engagement that they really needed at such a young age. When they started kindergarten in the Department of Education, I saw the significant number of students in the capacity in District 10. I was really upset because I knew for a teacher to take care of a student one-on-one, emotionally, socially, and physically in the capacity that that teacher is teaching, it's just unbelievable. I've seen it myself. I volunteered every day in my children's classroom, in my other classrooms in my school building. Teachers were exhausted, they were tired at the end of the day. They couldn't really teach a lesson because they had to make sure the kids had their 30-minute physical activity in the day. They had to make sure the kids ate. They made sure that the kids were warm during the winter, on top of teaching the kids academically. So I knew that parents who volunteered in the classroom was essential to the teachers. Councilmember Rita Joseph has always reminded me, an educator is always a forever educator, no matter where they are. And I want to dedicate thank you for all the teachers that they do in the classroom because they work with the kids even after school or on the weekends to support them to make sure that they move forward. Let us not forget our children and leave them behind. We have this space to voice our concerns, and yet the Department of Education, they know it is right to make smaller classrooms. The administration knows that this is the right thing to do for our children, but yet they're not meeting this law that is put in place. Social emotionally, it affects not just the students, not the teachers, not the principals, but also the members of the community. Because we know that this is a strain on our community. We are all here today because we all care. We know it's the right thing to do. We know it's the great benefit for our kids. But yet, 4 years of the expiration, and yet nothing has been done. And the DOE is just dragging their feet. So from a parent, of my personal experience, as a member of the community that is put in place by my parent community, I want to represent them well with their voice that we need class size reduction, and we need more money to make sure $2 billion go back to hiring and retention for our teachers and for service providers. I want to thank everyone here because every official and leader is important. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call up Councilmember Alexa Vilas.
Hey everyone, I'm Councilmember Alexa Vilas representing District 38 in South Brooklyn, and I'm just here obviously as a mom of public school students, as a former PTA president, knowing all the work that happens in our school buildings, that we have to follow the money. And we have to remember that along with our $109 billion budget, there is a capital budget that shows that we are not doing the appropriate investment in our kids. So I need all of you to pay very particular attention to that capital budget. A document that's given to many people as they're walking in to vote. Demand that all your council members look at that budget and say, no, this is not sufficient. This does not follow the law. So I want everyone to make sure we are demanding that that capital investment happen, because that's how we're going to get to where we need to be over the long period of time, in addition to all this other work. And lastly, I have to say is this administration not only seems to not want to follow the law, they don't seem to want to follow facts. And that is deeply troubling in this time. And so I need you all to remind this administration and the DOE and anyone who wants to go on a Fantasyland voyage that facts matter. And they matter to our children, and they matter to the dignity of every New Yorker. So let's follow the facts, and let's do what's right, and let's invest our money in our children and in New York City to make it the best place that it can be. All children deserve a quality education, no matter what. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I'd like to call Councilmember Dinowitz and Councilmember Jen. Thank you. Come on up.
Together?
Yeah.
All right.
Are we doing like a haunt film?
No, we'll be fast. Rita's gonna pray for her important hearing.
Would you like to go?
No, go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, I'll be fast. Good morning. We're very respectful. Thank you, Chair Joseph, of course, to the U of T and to the parents and the advocates that are here. I am a proud product of our public schools, and I think since becoming a member, I realized that only in education do we constantly have a fight for fiscal equity, for class size, for capital repairs, for after-school program. It is an industry that our families wholeheartedly depend on. Every single council member is impacted by our public schools, and yet every administration fights back on, yes, the law, but on the very necessary reality that investments for our schools is not radical. Investments for our schools are investments in our communities. That is the only way to look at it. Class size matters. I represent District 24, which is wildly overcrowded, and I also represent District 14 and 32, which is not overcrowded. And I have communities that support on both ends class size matters because they know how that will impact the success not only of our students, but of our schools, of our educators. So I continue to stand here in allyship with so many folks who have been fighting for this for decades. This is not new. It's long overdue that this administration, that this mayor, that the state take it seriously. The law is the law, and we're here to support class size matters. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Eric Dinowitz, council member for the 11th District, also representing districts 10, School District 10 and 11. First, I want to thank Chair Joseph for holding this very important hearing today, and Senator Jackson for his leadership in education, and for being a senator in overlapping my district. It is really a great honor to be serving alongside him as my Senate counterpart in the Northwest Bronx. Look, I'm not just a council member. I am like Councilmember Joseph, a forever educator. Forever educator. And I taught for almost 14 years students with disabilities. And bar none, the single biggest factor in my classroom that allowed me the ability to provide for my students was class size. I had classes of over 30 kids, and I had smaller self-contained classes of students who needed more support, students with disabilities whose disabilities required them more support. But in many cases, my students in self-contained classes outperformed students in general education classes, because even though they had more severe disabilities which required more support, they got that support. They got the individualized attention they needed, and not just academic attention, but emotional support they needed, the ability to build a strong, cohesive community in that smaller class, and of course, as a teacher, time to dedicate to each one of them, to provide meaningful feedback on their papers, to provide very detailed reports for their IEPs. The class size allowed the teachers to do that work so our kids were able to succeed. Now, one could say, of course, that students with disabilities, more severe disabilities perhaps, certainly they need a lot of love and a lot of attention and a lot of dedication, but don't all of our students deserve that? Don't all of our students deserve those smaller classes? Don't all of our students deserve that dedication that the teacher wants to give to every single one of our students? It's not just the right thing to do. It isn't just the thing that works. It is the law. And we are just saying, Mr. Mayor, follow the law. So I'm looking forward to this hearing today. And I want to again thank Chair Joseph, my colleagues, and Senator Jackson for their leadership on this incredibly important issue.
I'd like to call up Councilmember Althea Stevens.
Woohoo!
She got a fan out there.
Hi guys! Well, because I'm amongst friends and family today. And everybody knows that I'm a champion for our young people across the city, country, state, wherever. Where there's young people, I'm always going to make sure they have a voice. And I'm here because, I want to make sure that I'm here with my colleagues and being supportive of what this looks like. And also making sure that we are also putting some pressure on our state colleagues, because this is something I think we all could agree on, and we all want to say that is needed and necessary, because like my colleague, Councilmember Dennis just spoke about, I've been in education for a number of years, and we know smaller settings is what helps our young people. We know that that's where they learn and they thrive, but we also need to make sure that when the state are implementing laws, that they're also funding them.
Right.
And not dropping it on the city side to figure out how to implement these things. We need to figure out, what does this look like in real partnership? Because sometimes it doesn't feel that way. And so now at the city level, we are forced to figure this out with the same funding. And that is not okay. And I want to make sure that we are highlighting that and saying that we need to work together and thinking about moving forward. The education system gets a lot of input from our state. But we at City Council need to make sure that our voices are being heard when decisions are being made. And when we're thinking about the implementation is just as important as the law that we have. You can't just create something and say, figure it out. My thing is, when we're thinking about legislation, how is this going to be implemented? How are they working with us to make sure these things are implemented? And so we are partners in this work. We need to be working together to come up with solutions around these things. But again, implementation is just as important as anything else, because you can have an amazing law, but if it's not implemented correctly, it doesn't work. And so for me, we are going to figure this out, roll up our sleeves, but we want to make sure that all partners are part of this conversation from start to finish. Thank you.
Woo! Thank you so much. I'd like to call up Councilmember Brewer.
Thank you very much, Chair Joseph and my colleagues. I would say a couple of things. There's a lot of discussion about this topic, yet everybody agrees class size needs to be smaller. And I want to give, we call him RJ and John Liu credit for making sure that this passed in the legislature. I know it wasn't easy. So the question is, stop pointing fingers. Like, I always hear, oh my goodness, we're going to have one child extra in the classroom, and what are we going to do? That begs the question of everybody sit down and figure out how to do it right. But don't bring up things like that, because you know that's not going to happen. sit down and figure out. There is no question, if you go to any classroom in the city of New York, in public schools today, you do see classes that are too large, you do see teachers struggling, and post-pandemic, nothing is more important than personal attention. All you have to do is go to your classroom and see what the challenges are. Guess what? We need more teachers anyway. This would be the best investment the state and the city could make, would be to invest in our education. And of course, I think teachers should get paid more so that we would have more people applying. I feel very, very strongly about that. So the issue is, it's good to have a goal, it's good to have a law that says you have to do this, because if we didn't have the law, nobody would be trying to make those classes small, and nobody would be trying to address the needs of our students. When you are in a classroom like I was the other day, and you see something close to 30 children, one teacher struggling to make everybody able to learn, you know that's not right. So congratulations to the state. Yes, the state should come up with the money, but and I don't want, I get tired of people stating, listen, we could use this money for something else. Yeah, you could get more money for something else, for God's sake, but make sure that the classes are able to be taught in a way. And you can't just use paras. Paras are wonderful, we love them, but they cannot be a substitute for a teacher. So I'm here to say congratulations to the state. Yes, find the money, pay teachers more, and make our public schools what they should be. Thank you very much.
I'd like to call up Joanna Garcia, who's the co-chair of the New York City Public Schools Class Size Working Group. Step up.
Thank you, everyone. So I'm Joanna Garcia, co-chair of the Class Size Working Group, and I'm going to make my comments very short and sweet. We have a plan, a diverse coalition of educators, parents, community-based organizations, small number of elected representatives in terms of their reps, came together for 9 months, met through the summer to come up with a plan, comprehensive. We talked about all the aspects of the complicated system that is public education. They are thoughtful. There is a roadmap. And what's really strange is that it's Chancellor Banks who convened the working group. And yet, immediately after, you have the administration and officials in the Department of Education undermining the work of these 46 individuals. Some might call it duplicitous. Some might say that they never expected us to be successful, but we were. And I urge everyone to look at the plan. We talk about capital, we talk about enrollment, we talk about special needs, we talk about budget. Let's look at the plan, let's honor the work of the hard members of the working group, and let's get this done. Thank you.
Get it done. I'd like to call Leonie Hansen, who's been fighting for this for decades. I was going to class.
Thank you. So I want to thank John Liu and RJ for fighting for this for so many years. I want to thank all the council members, especially Rita, who are holding this hearing today. I want to thank Joanna Garcia, who is an incredible co-chair of our working group through some very, very difficult times and worked incredibly hard on this. So I was a member of this working group, and we did come up with a plan released in December with a whole bunch of actionable, effective proposals to get us to smaller classes. And some of them are even cost-free, and some of them are even cost savings. But the administration has not agreed to put a single one of our proposals into effect. For example, we proposed to have a separate budget allocation line for smaller classes so that schools could afford to hire the extra teachers they need. Are they doing this? No. Instead, they're cutting the budget for DOE by $700 million they plan for the next 4 years. We came up with a proposal so that overcrowded schools could lower their enrollment at lower levels so they would have the space to reduce class size. Are they doing this? No. They explicitly told principals this year that they are not allowed to ask for lower enrollment next year in order to reduce class size. We came up with a proposal that you need to accelerate and expand the capital plan because in too many neighborhoods there simply is not the space to lower class size. Are they doing this? No. Instead, they're cutting the capital plan by 50% the number of new seats by over $2.5 billion. And by the way, for those of you who are here from the Bronx, there's not a single new school specified in the capital plan for that entire borough. We also came up with a proposal that's really important, that the DOE should stop co-locating new schools without a specific analysis that will not prevent existing schools in the building to lower class size. Have they done that? No. They continue to come up with new proposals that are voted on every month by the PEP to squeeze our school, all these schools, into smaller and smaller spaces, and for the long term prevent them from ever lowering class size. So as I said, we have some very simple proposals. We believe that the Chancellor was sincere when he asked us to come up with a plan, and now all we're asking is him to start implementing the plan, because the longer he waits, we face two very, very damaging possibilities. One, that the state will start holding back funds as punishment, because that is in the law. And number two, that the changes at the last minute will be so disruptive that they will hurt our kids' education in many other ways. So thank you again, and I hope you all stick around for the hearings and hear what DOE has to say.
Olympia. We're going to hear from another parent that's impacted, Olympia, and then we're going to close it out.
Hi there. I remember 6 years ago, I got a letter of admission for pre-K. I was so happy. I was paying all that money to take it. I was like, very good, universal pre-K, great. Then I have a coffee with a friend. He says, welcome to the tunnel of public education in New York. I said, what do you mean? His kid was just in college. He's like, all of us get upset in that tunnel, and then we come out exhausted and defeated, and we don't talk again about public education because it's horrible. It's the richest city in the country, in the world, and we cannot afford a better public education? This is horrible. So my kid is now a third grader, and my second kid is a first grader. And this fall, our principal convocated an urgent meeting of parents where what we discussed was, guess what? We have 31 kids in that first grade. And you know, our teachers, who are heroes, they cannot really meet all the needs. In a school, by the way, that is not funded enough to have the social workers, to have the reading specialists, and all the things that our kids should have. They are worthy. All New York kids are worthy of a good future and of a better education. So here we are, we're having this urgent emergency meeting with all these parents, and most of New York parents who care about this issue. I'm so shocked every time I read an article about, oh, this is a union issue, the parents don't care. The parents have to work, they have to get food for their kids, they have to take them to the pediatrician, do all sorts of stuff. So I'm here to talk for all those parents who were at that meeting and are not here today. Okay, we care about the class size. And you know what they ended up saying in that meeting? They didn't even know about this law, right? And these are voters, Mayor. I made sure everybody knew about this law. And what they said is, oh, we should volunteer. Then we got teachers from student teachers from universities. So now our classes have 2 teachers. However, these are ad hoc solutions in a more or less privileged school, PS 187 in Carmen's district. I don't know if she left. And Robert Jackson's where you are your kid is an alumni. So what I want to say is next year our pre-K, that are 4 classes, are going to be reduced to 3 first grades, and it's going to be more than 30 kids in every class. Right now we have 30. So what I want to say is this idea of scarcity that our mayor is trying to push through is a shame, and we all know it. So please follow the law. Thank you to the leadership of Senator Jackson, of Leone, of our chair Jackson, and all the council members. I really hope that you're gonna be loud enough and strong enough to oblige him to follow the law, and not just to meet the bare minimum.
That's right.
Okay, not just to meet the bare minimum. Our kids are worthy of more. Yeah. Let's be innovative. Let's give them more recreation time, by the way. Outdoor learning, more experiences, all the services that they need to thrive. Thank you.
coming today. So I'll see you all at the hearing. Thank you.
Excuse me, please. I got that. All right, make